So coming into training camp, I was mainly focused on two things, the wide receiver position and the interior offensive line. Those were the biggest camp battles. And so far in camp, it's been Keandre Lambert Smith out of Auburn, the fifth round rookie, two catches for 43 yards and a touchdown in the Hall of Fame game. This guy's an absolute stud. He looks like a seasoned veteran out there. We saw, of course, just one move and then he's got his man beat in man coverage. Seems like an automatic touchdown. Trey Harris, though, got a slow start to camp because he was trying to get his contract situation figured out. He ends up hiring an agent, and then he gets the deal done, and then 6, 7, whatever days after that, he's practicing with the team. And you look at the first, really like a dozen practices that the Chargers have had. Harris didn't have that one breakout day. He had a couple of good ones, but Sunday was without question his best so far. Him and Herbert had insane chemistry. Talk about Lat McConkey and Herbert last season. It was very similar to that. And funny enough, speaking of Lat McConkey, he was not that it's funny, but he was out, of course, on Sunday's practice. He's missed the past couple. He's been getting some light work. It's a very minor injury, according to Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator. But because McConkey hasn't been practicing, that allows Harris to step in and to get more of an opportunity. And Herbert, he's going to pick his guy on third down, and he's going to go at him every single time. It's the same thing with McConkey and Herbert last year. It was on big downs. Herbert was looking for Lad no matter if he had two guys on, three guys on him, that's who he's going to. And that's what we saw out of Harris in the practice. So let's talk about it. So Justin Herbert overall, before I even get into that, I haven't really spoken much about Herbert because we've been talking about all these rookies. But Herbert was phenomenal throwing to the deep parts of the field yesterday. He had that insane back shoulder throw to Trey Harris, but he also had an explosive pass to tight end Rondé Gadsden. I feel like we haven't been talking about much. He was great to start camp. He got to slow it down, but he had a big explosive catch yesterday. Darius Davis also, you look at Jalen Johnson, he had a 55-yard touchdown catch down the seam. So Herbert was able to find these guys. The first team offense and the first team defense were in a situational red zone drill. The offense took over at the 10-yard line with 18 seconds on the clock. And on first and goal, Herbert hit Hampton on an angle route out of the backfield, which an angle route is basically like a Texas route, right? Where it's you kind of cut to the side and then you cut to the middle of the field. I believe that's what an angle route is. Everyone calls it, every route is like something different to other people, but I believe that's what they're saying. I don't have like the footage on it, of course. So then that's going to get the Chargers down inside of the 5-yard line. So they're 3 yards away from scoring. The offense runs up to the field. They end up spiking it, and then there's 7 seconds left. So on third and goal, who is Herbert going to go to? He's going to Keandre Lambert Smith on an in-breaking route in the back of the end zone, but Dante Jackson was tight in coverage and forced the incompletion. Been talking about Dante a lot this offseason, how I thought he had a lot of potential to step in and play right away for the Chargers, and good to see him make a play. Big time, man, especially on the receiver who's been breaking out for the Chargers, Lambert Smith. And the reason why I even brought that up is because Nico Reed ended up getting in there with the first team defense. Nico's been my favorite player so far during training camp. I mean, he's a guy who didn't even get an invite to the combine. He's a guy who was very under the radar. Nobody really even thought he would make the roster, including me, right? I wasn't talking about Nico Reed, coming into camp. And he's just been an absolute stud. I mean, we made a video literally a day before the game talking about him and how he's legit. And he has an interception in the Hall of Fame game against the Lions, which was pretty cool. And the Chargers, they were running 6 defensive backs out there during this drill. So they had Dante Jackson, Cam Hart, Tarheeb Steele, Elijah Molden, Derwin James Jr., Aloy Gilman, and then Nico Reed joining the first team defense later on in that series. And Reed said it himself, word for word, after practice, quote, "I prove that I belong," end quote. I mean, this is not an ordinary situation for the Chargers. They were already like pretty strong at corner. Last season, of course, they had a couple of day 3 picks that ended up breaking out and getting play just because of injuries and things like that, and they got an opportunity. And now Reed, despite an even more crowded cornerback room, because you already had some good young corners, but then the Chargers, they went out there and they got Dante Jackson, of course. They went out there and they brought in Benjamin St. Juice. They've got Jazir Taylor as well, who's very, very solid. Tony Jefferson over at the safety position. So there's a lot of DBs that can make plays. But Nico Reed has been standing out amongst them, and he's making a very good case to get playing time, man. I mean, who would have thought an undrafted rookie for the Chargers, UDFA, would be competing for a starting job? But that's where we're at to this point. I mean, you've got Reed, you've got now we're gonna get into Trey Harris a little bit more in depth, but Keandre Lambert Smith was a fifth round pick, so give credit to the Chargers management for how they've been going out there and just hitting on these late rookies, man, that nobody else really wanted to take a chance on, and they're developing them, and they've been panning out, man. So I'm excited about that for sure. But I do want to get to Trey Harris because this video is mainly about him. I didn't want to just get out like the biggest things right out in the middle of the video, the beginning of the video, just because, and like, what's the point to watch the rest of the video, right? So in terms of Harris, so McConkey sits out for his third straight practice. Now all of a sudden, a couple of third downs, Herbert needs a go-to guy. So Herbert and Harris, they connect for 3 third down conversions on the day, 2 in 7 on 7 and 1 in 11 on 11 in total. Harris ended up catching 4 of his 5 targets from Herbert. That's pretty impressive considering these guys, I mean, yeah, they've had some run together, but not that much, like, consistently. So 4 or 5 is big time, man, especially going up against the first team defense. And just to see the praise from a young receiver too, in Harris talking about Herbert and how he's a gunslinger, man. There's just no window that he's not afraid to throw into. He's stepping up in the pocket, and 9 times out of 10, it's a perfect ball. That's what playing with Justin Herbert feels like to these receivers. That's why I'll always stand on my take that I think Justin Herbert's a top 5 quarterback. Even when I went on an NFL show, this was probably like 2 months ago to this point, but they were asking me to rank my quarterbacks, and I put Justin Herbert over Jalen Hurts. And you can say I'm biased, which is cool, even like Jalen Hurts, who was a second round pick, of course, came out of Alabama, and he wasn't raw by any means. He was actually like really good coming out of college, but it took him a good amount to sort of become that player. And I watched him grow, and I like Jalen Hurts a lot. But Justin Herbert, just when he came into the league, I mean, he was just better than everyone with his arm and his accuracy, his IQ, his work ethic. And I feel like this is the first time that the Chargers have consistently been able to put help around him. I mean, they've kind of tried but failed, but Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, they seem to really be on top of things. And of course, you got to give credit to management as well for drafting the pieces around him, because last season the Chargers weren't really expected to do much. I mean, a winning season would have been seen as a W, but they ended up getting 11 games, going to the wild card, and they fell short. But then they added in the pieces to be able to make sure that doesn't happen again. And it really does start, of course, with Trey Harris, because the Chargers' interior offensive line was their biggest concern, which they got Mekhi Becton, of course, who didn't practice, by the way, yesterday. I should have mentioned that. We'll get into the O-line a little bit. But in terms of the outside production at receiver, it was just lacking. Like, Mike Williams was released. Quentin Johnson, of course, dealt with drop issues, kind of slow off the line, nothing crazy there. And then tight end position, there certainly wasn't a playmaker. Like, there was no Rodney Gadsden. Will Disley had a breakout year receiving, but he had some drops too. And he's not really known for that type of role. So now you get Trey Harris, Keandre Lambert Smith. It should be a lot of fun. Mike Williams did retire, which kind of sucks losing out on him. But I think Quentin Johnson's about to have a breakout year of his own right too. He's looked a lot better in camp. I know Johnson's had some good camps so far early on in his career, his young career, but he hasn't been able to track the football and be able to come back to it and make adjustments as well. And to sort of end this off, yeah, I mean, Harris, he made a lot of good plays, man. Just finding the soft spot against zone coverage. Herbert hits him in stride. 11 on 11, of course. 3rd and 5. Working against Nico Reed, who's been breaking out this camp. Like I said, in Harris, he runs a go route down the right sideline. Herbert back shoulder throw to him. And Harris saw Herbert's ball placement, slowed his route, and made a smooth adjustment. He caught the pass before getting both feet in bounds for an explosive gain. That's a big-time play. Rookie on rookie crime right there. Herbert puts it right where he needs to. Certainly, if Justin Herbert's throwing you a ball at one-on-one, it's going to help. But not many rookies are going to be able to make that adjustment, man. So good job right there, too. And yeah, just to sort of finish off the video, I mean, we're kind of like Probably gonna end it here. I still have a lot to talk about. Screw it. Why not? I don't really like longer videos on YouTube, but we'll do it. So edge rusher Caleb Murphy, he looks like a lock to make the 53 man. I think the Chargers are gonna end up carrying 5 edge rushers, which just sounds crazy. Like it sounds absurd. But think about it this way: like Khalil Mack, Tuli Tobolotu, Bud Dupree had 2 sacks yesterday. Like those three are a lock to make it. And then the Chargers also drafted an edge rusher in the 4th round who, yeah, I mean, he hasn't really had like the craziest camp. Talking about Kennard, he's really good against the run. I think he's still kind of finding his way as a rusher. But with Murphy being first team on special teams, he was in on that play. I can remember the first play of the Lions Hall of Fame game. There was a fumble in return that was caused, of course, by Murphy. So he's a lock. Like he's first team special teams. He's didn't just have that play. He also had a couple of run stuffs and pressures. So I think the Chargers are going to end up carrying 5 edge rushers. They're not going to leave their 4th round edge off of their 53 man. Like I don't see that really happening. So looks like the Chargers are going to carry 5 edges. And then Brandon Rice, gotta mention him because the last time I talked about him, I said he was disappointing and didn't really look like an NFL level receiver. He had his best day yesterday, man. He got 2 touchdowns and 11 on 11. And both were insanely impressive. One of them was a fade by Trey Lance, which was on the 5 yard line with 7 seconds to go. Being able to leap up over Deion Leonard and making a contested catch is big time. And then DJ as well was able to find him in double coverage on a deep shot touchdown all over Kendall Williamson, Eric Rogers. So good job right there, man. Love to see it, of course. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was just the first team offensive line. Now there was no Mekhi Becton, but it was Slater, Bozeman, Zion, Sawyer, and Joe Alt. Looking like that final spot is going to come down to Sawyer and Zion. I think Bozeman's a lock. I don't know if he's. I mean, I would say he's probably. I can't really call him a lock, but I don't see Zion playing center at the NFL level. I really just don't. At least right now or like anytime soon. Which means that Bozeman's gonna have to play it, and then all of a sudden, who plays left guard? Right guard is obviously Mekhi Becton. So is it Zion or is it Jamari Sawyer? So it's something to keep an eye on. I mean, there's still several starting spots up for grabs, like corners up for grab, receivers up for grab, outside receiver, and then that left guard spot. For all we know, maybe Zion does have a great rest of training camp in the summer at center, but I don't see that happening. Like a first time ever center playing for a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl, I'm just not buying it.